So many people have an espresso machine at home nowadays, and yet we hear all the time that it's impossible to create a cup of coffee that resembles anything like you get at your local cafe. So today we're going to show you how to get the best out of a machine like this, and I can guarantee you that after today you'll make a better cup of coffee at home than you ever have before, and it'll be just as good, if not better, than the one that you get at your local cafe, except for probably black velvet. Firstly, the most important part of coffee extraction is the grinder. It's got nothing to do with the beans, it's got nothing to do with anything else. The grinder is much more important. If the grind is set up correctly, you're halfway to making a decent cup of coffee. But before we talk about the grind, I want to talk about the dose of coffee that goes in here and what happens in here when you're making a cup of coffee. Now, first things first, if you've been looking up websites of any other coffee roasters and they give you a recipe for grind size and dose size and all the rest of it, throw that out the window, because what you're using at home is much smaller than the one you can use inside a cafe. What happens inside this group handle when the coffee is extracting is that the coffee absorbs the water, which creates pressure, and the oils are extracted into the cup. So you've got to leave enough space inside here to allow the coffee to expand. If you overdose, it's not going to pour, and if you underdose, it's going to pour too quickly. Most tampers that you get with a domestic machine have an edge on it like this, which actually shows you the amount of space you should leave inside the group handle. So what you're actually doing is you're using the pressure of the machine to extract the oils from within the coffee. You need to build up pressure, as much pressure as you possibly can inside here, without building up too much pressure, and it's a pretty fine line in between, but it is easy to get to if you know what you're doing. So leave enough space with your dose of coffee for the coffee to expand. That creates pressure, the pressure builds up, and the coffee will pour out of here. So too little coffee means the extraction is too fast because there is not enough pressure being built up inside the basket. What happens to the taste? The taste will be weak, it'll be watery, and it's not going to be very pleasant. If there's too much coffee, there's not enough room for the coffee to expand, and what will happen then is the pressure that builds up here is too great, and obviously what will happen is you only get a drip, if you're lucky, pouring from the spout here. Now, whether you have a separate grinder or your machine is fitted with a grinder and a hopper on top like this one, the principle is exactly the same. We've got a grind size here. It's the same on any other grinder. They're all exactly the same. You can either go too coarse or you can go too fine. Now, the reason we talked about dose first and we're talking about grind second is because no matter what we want to do, the dose is always going to be the same. You always want to try and get that same dose, which is a fraction from the top of the basket, which we spoke about before. What's going to happen when the grind is too fine? If you can imagine it, it's a powdery sort of consistency. If it's too fine, it's not going to be able to absorb the water, and the extraction is going to be way too slow, which is going to create a really bitter taste in your mouth. If it's too coarse, like table salt even, the water is going to find its way through all these little gaps between the granules and it's going to pour out way too quickly, and that's not going to taste very pleasant either. So bear in mind, what we need to do is every time we make an adjustment on the grinder, that is going to adjust the size of your dose as well. If we go finer, the granules become smaller, the dose is going to become smaller. If we grind coarser, the granules are bigger, the dose gets bigger. So every adjustment you make on the grinder, you have to make an equal adjustment on the dose. Let's have a look at the extraction if the grind is too coarse. Now let's look at the extraction if the grind is too fine. Now we'll have a look at the extraction when the grind and the dose is absolutely perfect. Position the steam wand between the centre and the right hand side of the milk jug at around the 3 o'clock position. The tip of the steam wand should only be marginally below the surface of the milk, where you'll hear a faint hissing sound. You can use your right hand to gauge the temperature. When it's just too hot to touch, you're done. But always remember, when you're finished, wipe the steam wand clean. Start pouring from about 4 or 5 centimetres away from the cup. When the cup's about half full, bring the milk jug closer to the cup and bring the textured milk to the front of the jug. This will allow you to get the pattern that you're after, with a bit of practice, of course. So that's pretty much it. Hopefully that helps. If there's anyone out there who's interested in a one-on-one training session, they are available now. Go to our website, send us an email, and we can do it from here straight into your house. It'll help, and it'll end up looking and tasting like this.